What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Straight Betting. It is officially NBA playoff time and best time of the year. And it's been a long time since the Aussie's been in the building, but we do indeed have quote unquote the mate, as the people like to call him, Mister Rue, as I like to call him. But Liam, how we doing?
Yeah, pretty good, mate. Pretty good. Excited for the playoffs. A lot of good matchups. Um, and these playing games, I always love the playing games because, I mean, the playoffs are great, and obviously the deeper you go, the better it gets. But there's something about a one game elimination that you know, it makes it like I like betting on these games because, right, coaches are sort of forced. They're sort of forced their hand. Uh, if they fuck up and don't do like this specific thing that's very obvious that's going to help them win, it's pretty dumb, right? They're professionals. It's a one game thing. So yeah, I'm super excited for the play-in specifically.
Are you excited for the Hawks and Magic game though?
Not really. More the Warriors and Grizzlies. But these two, they're not the one game at Limbs, right? They're Yeah, okay. So the one game elimination's the day after, but these two, I mean, it's not a one game elimination, but it's a game to avoid a one game elimination. So, it's still similar. Yeah, I'm much more excited for the Grizzlies Warriors than Magic Hawks.
Yeah. I mean, this game is an absolute fucking joke in my opinion. This game and the Heat Bulls game, it's like yeah, y'all are playing to make the playoffs. Like you guys, both these teams are terrible. The Bulls, Heat, both of these teams are terrible, and they're gonna play a team that's like literally has zero chance of losing to these guys in a 7 game series, unless like something
Yeah,
like terrible happened. So
yeah.
I think this is good, good for us. You get to see some. I'm always a fan of competitive basketball, right? Like win or go home. It's always fun to see that. But yeah, outside of Memphis and Golden State, I think all these games are gonna kind of stink. Personally, actually, maybe the Mavs. The Mavs could maybe be a little entertaining. The Kings,
Yeah.
they're all right, but yeah,
I think this is a great
overwhelming.
example of do you remember in the bubble when they were inviting the teams? Uh, they had the plane then, but for the plane to be activated, the team had to be a certain amount of games behind the 16 or something.
Yeah,
I think this is a great year where it's a great example of you don't really need, right, you don't need a playing game for Miami and Chicago because I mean I think it's pretty clear that all the Magic and Hawks had a better record.
yep,
They're both better. That should just be the playoffs. But yeah, let's get into it.
yeah. Let's get into it. Enough yapping. We're 3 minutes in, and I'm sure that the people are itching for some breakdowns. So, all right, starting out with Atlanta and Orlando. I think it's like a 5 point spread, probably a really low total, even though the Hawks play no defense. Magic plays slow as hell. Good defensive team. Before we start, getting into the specific stuff, I guess, just like overall, what do you expect this game? How do you expect it to play out?
I think Orlando have too much size for the Hawks. I was watching some film back. All right, so yeah, so the Hawks were trying to do something. So they don't usually play super aggressive stuff, right? They've got Dyson Daniels, which is great. He's great at shutting down smaller guards. In this matchup, he doesn't do much. So you got your defensive player of the year candidate, who isn't entirely useful here. Uh, they guard Paolo with a Kongwu, Franz with Dyson, but Dyson was too small for Franz. So I mean, what makes Dyson so good on defense is he usually is guarding guards and he just swallows them with size and he's super athletic. But against France, a lot of that's negated. So yeah, it just takes away their weapons. And what I noticed about that game is they allowed Orlando to get in the paint super easy. No, sorry, yeah, they allowed Paolo and France to get in the paint real easy. Um, you can't really do that because if you do that, right, a game where they're both probably going to play 40 minutes, it's going to be hard to win. On the flip side, Orlando were blitzing Trey in the pick and roll, which isn't something you usually associate with them doing. And what it did mean, I didn't like their rotation, so they blitz Trey in the pick and roll. Right, ball would, he'd give up the ball. makes it a 4-on-3. Um, Atlanta found a lot of success in that, and they got a lot of open threes. I thought Daniels was pretty good, slashing to the rim, creating plays off that. I think Okongwu's really evolved as a guy who you have to worry about in these situations. He can now knock down the three. His percentage has definitely gone up as the season's gone on. So yeah, I would lean the Magic just because I prefer in a playoff setting. I prefer the team that can get in the paint, consistently score in the paint, rely on their defense. Which it would be interesting to see if they do the same thing to Trey, because not only did they blitz him, there was times when they blitz him, Trey would wait it out. The big would just start backing away because he'd be like, "Fuck, like this guy's not giving up the ball. He's just dribbling." Um, and then as a big back away, Trey would just straight away beat Corey Joseph or straight away beat Black off the dribble. And the big's like in no man land. He's like retreating back to his man, but also not up at the level. And he took advantage of that a fair few times, which is how he got a lot of his volume. He also got a lot of stuff in the open court as well. So yeah, I prefer the Magic. I just like taking the team that I trust to score more in the paint. I think they have more shot creation, especially in the paint, compared to the Hawks. When you take the ball out of Trey's hands, you're trusting Daniels, you're trusting Ricochet, who's I like, but he's more catch and shoot guy. He's not fantastic off the dribble yet. Okongwu, they do have Karis LeVert, which is interesting to see how much he plays because he might be needed to create his own shot, create shot for others with his penetration and stuff like that. But yeah, I would lean Magic here. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Magic have actually been, they started off the year really good. I think the expectation was for them to be a really good team. I've liked the way they've played recently. I think their defense is going to be suffocating. They have a ton of length. They have very two pretty good players, in Paulo and Franz. And yeah, I just think that they're straight up the better team. I'm not a fan of this Hawks roster. Magic are at home. I definitely have them pulling it out as well. All right, let's get into some of the nitty gritty stuff. Coverages we expect from the Magic. You touched on this a little bit, and you talked about how you saw Trey get blitzed a little bit here and there. Look, Trey's never going to see purely drop coverage. I mean, that's just like ridiculous, right? I do expect, in a game like this, the Magic to stick to their guns, which is more a switch heavy defense, is more of like a drop defense, limit spot ups and stuff like that. Trey is a playmaker, someone who you definitely got to fear. So look, they're going to blitz him every now and then, right? Just like how you said what happened last game. I still think that Trey isn't over or nothing with his points, and you can kind of base a lot of the spot up guys like that as unders or nothing as well. Like Ricochet, you got to take the under or nothing. He's kind of like the main guy that stands out, to be honest to me, for like an under or nothing type of person. But maybe Mohammed Gay too. He could be like
Yeah.
an under or nothing, even though his line's at 5.5. So you're kind of playing with fire there. But yeah, Liam, what do you expect for the Magic on defense?
I think yeah. See, this is where it's a bit of a guessing game. I mean, I think they'll do. They did get killed blitzing Trey last game because there was a lot of times when it was 4-on-3, and Daniels really impressed me watching the game back in. He'd take it to the cup. He'd make plays for others. Really dynamic. Also, didn't think Magic were very good at rotating, so you got a fair few threes for the Hawks. I think, yeah, I mean, the great players, you never show them the same thing every single time, right? So I do think they'll actually blitz a fair bit here, though, just because I don't think they like. Um, they started doing it more towards the end of the season as well. So uh, let me get some numbers up here. So it's not just. Hang on, bear with me, Ty. Uh, so I do think they'll blitz a little bit, but when we're betting this sort of stuff, the key is you've got to like work down from all right, who's the guy with the ball all the time, and then once you have a gauge on what's going to happen there, that's when you start working out with others. Be like, all right, so if this is happening, who does that advantage? Is there anyone they're happy helping off and leaving open? All that sort of stuff. So um, let's go last 15 games. The Magic have allowed the second most pull-ups per game. Interesting. I thought that would have been much lower. But yeah, no, they blitz straight a fair bit. I'm probably going to stay away props on the Atlanta side, to be honest.
Yeah, I will say I want to touch on a few people and I want your input. First prop, I was just a little bit intrigued by this. Look, I wanted to gauge like Atlanta in like a must-win game. They played against Orlando, and that was their must-win game that I was like looking at. Right, it's like okay, I want to see like what this rotation really looks like when it's a must-win game because the Hawks have kind of been bullshitting all year, especially since Jalen Johnson got hurt and all that. But Onyeka did play 40 minutes in the Hawks that game. They don't have Larry Nance. They don't have Clint Capella, obviously. They don't have any other centers. You need size out there against Orlando. I just want a bunch of thoughts on Onyeka stuff. And,
I like his stuff.
Yep.
That's the one I like. And what I did notice is he was the one that they were happy to leave open. Okay. With blitzing Trey, they're like, all right, the others beat us. Onyeka was one of them. And a big reason for it was because a lot of the time the pick and roll Trey's calling is with Big O. So his man is the one blitzing Trey. So that actually leaves him as the open guy. So yeah, I definitely like that. I'm also what were his assists in that game? Because I feel like maybe the potential assists were low, but I feel like it would have been maybe 4 or 5. What
It
was
was
it?
4. Yep. And
4?
that's
Yeah.
actually what I want to quick talk about too. PA is at 16.5, and this is probably one I'm going to wait to bet closer to tip due to the books that are available. But Onyeka Okongwu, I mean, going from 14.5 points to 16.5 PA just feels like value on its own. And I don't like using regular season numbers, but I am going to do them right here. So this is like with Trey, with Karras, Levert, and then without Jalen and Hunter.
Yeah.
If you do think his minutes are going to be like 36 to 38, which I personally do, you could, and he's averaging 17.7 PA per 32.5 minutes. You could bump it up a little bit. We like the scheme. You like the scheme. I know I do as well. Even if like they are to kind of let Trey do his thing, I don't think that's going to take away from Onyeka, who's going to constantly be screening and Magic, our team that likes to run people off the 3-point line and funnel stuff inside. So I think that Onyeka is actually in a great spot for 16.5 PA.
Yeah. I agree. I like that a lot.
Probably not play
I like
rebounds.
it a lot.
Just I don't like the 11.5 line. I totally get that like the minutes are probably going to be there. I just don't like this line personally though. So I'd probably leave
Yeah.
rebounds out.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
Cool.
fair. Yeah.
Okay. Liam, passing it back to you. Who's a guy that like really intrigues you here? Because my guy is Onyeka. It can be from the Magic. It can be from anything for this game. But who intrigues you here?
Um, I would say Karis LeVert intrigues me. And the reason he does is I can definitely see a world where in a playoff like intensity with Orlando, their rotation, they're switched on with rotations. They want someone to beat them, not named Trey, which we did see last game. Um, I can see a world where he gets more minutes just because Quinn Snyder sort of forced his hand of like, fuck, no one else can create a shot, really. He can create a shot. Also, when they played them recently, they were playing him in drop in the pick and roll. So I think he had 11 field goal attempts, 3 free throw attempts. That's pretty good for a 12.5 point line. Yeah, him getting 30 minutes is probably what I'd actually have him at here. So I might look to bet on him just because I do feel like they need him. I think this is a classic spot. Like we've seen all season, they haven't trusted Zach Reese-Shea.
Mm-hmm.
Would not surprise me here if it's the same thing, especially because they don't actually guard Paolo or Franz with him. So if they don't trust him, I mean, he's a solid defender. He's got good length, but what's really the point of him if he's not impacting the game offensively pretty early, which I actually think he's a chance of doing just because of how they'll guard Trey, then I can definitely see him getting benched. And then you'll see Levert, Man, Niang get extended mins. I do think Levert though is sort of needed as a just as a guy who he can create his own shot, which I think is pretty important. Also, looking at last game, I think it's pretty telling the way they guarded Trey because Levert had 11 field goal attempts, Terrence Mann had 14 field goal attempts, George's Niang had 10 field goal attempts. So that's what's that like 35 shots combined for 3 guys, which is definitely all above their averages. And it's because they were trying to get the ball out of Trey's hands. And Okongwu was similar. He had very high field goal attempts because they were getting the ball out of his hand. So I'd say Levert interests me a bit. The others as well, but I need to do projections later for minutes, and then yeah, I do think there's a bit of value on the Hawks guys because I didn't like what I saw from the Magic with their rotations.
Yeah, I like the Levert take too. That's definitely something I was looking at. There's three people who I thought, there are two people who I really like their overs, and it's Levert and Onyeka. I think those two guys, Levert's just like a better player than, Reese Shea, to be honest. He's a better player than, their forward, like Mo Gay or whatever. Like he should be getting 30 minutes in a winner go home game. And just given how the Magic like to defend, even if Levert will get his fair share of usage too. It's like, well, okay, and he's gonna get single coverage. He's not gonna get anything thrown against him.
Yeah.
So I think he's very interesting. Before we move on to the next game, Liam, one of my favorite edges in the playoffs is predicting minutes. And like, is there any players on here that you might think are markets too low on their minutes, or you think maybe there's like a role player who's like potentially out of the rotation, or maybe like a 1 5-minute stint or something like that? Is there any players on here that that you think could play an under, like based off of minutes, or over based off of minutes?
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me if Mo Gay sees a little bit of a decrease in minutes here. It's interesting because what they would do. So what they were. This is sort of spoiling the There's like a dog playing with a toy. No, dude, can you shut the window? That's okay. There's a dog playing with like a fucking bitey toy. Yeah. So what I do think is the way that they were defending the Magic, they had a Kongo on Paolo, they had Daniels on France. They weren't necessarily showing them bodies until they got in the paint, which I think is what they're doing wrong. So the guys defending, so say Paolo had an isolation at the top of the 3-point line, right? The guys wouldn't necessarily shade in. Okay, so like a team who does it great is the Clippers. They with these sort of guys, right? So say there's two wings on the offensive team on either side of the 3-point line, right? And you've got the defenders there guarding them. They actually shade in a little bit. And what it means is it like lowers the driving lanes for the main guy with the ball.
Aggressive
And that's what I
gap.
think you sort of have to do against the Magic. Especially they're such a bad 3-point shooting team.
Yeah.
They just allowed Franz and Paolo to constantly get in the paint, and then they would come and double. But by then it's too late because once you're in the paint, right? If you come and double, Paolo is actually pretty good. Like he does take some dumb shots, but he's pretty smart in terms of if there's an open guy, he'll hit him. So just for that reason, Mo Gay was like coming as the help side guy, but he would constantly be coming when they got in the paint. And I don't really know there's much point of it, really. And with the way Trey's going to be guarded, that's where you want that spot. Like, I'd rather Georges Niang play minutes, right, there.
Mhm.
And on offense, you get a guy who, is just so much more of a threat than Mo Gay. So yeah, Mo Gay is a guy I could see getting low minutes in this spot, just because unless he starts the game really well on defense, which he didn't at all last game. It was pretty funny. But yeah, that's a guy. But I need to go through more and have a look. But for the Hawks, it's Mo Gay.
Agreed. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's definitely someone who was on my radar too. I mean, we've seen him like play like 2 6-minute stints like over and over again, and then had some big minute games to close out the year. But that could easily be playing for nothing related. So I think that's a good call by you. Let's move on to the next game, right? So this game is going to be a lot more interesting. Obviously, Memphis at Golden State. Let's just I'll give out my official play here first. Before we break down the second game, I just want to take a little bit of time to shout out ProphetX. ProphetX is another peer-to-peer platform. It's another out. It's available in 40 plus states. In today's betting landscape, it can be really tough to get down money, but with ProphetX, it's peer-to-peer, so all you need is liquidity on the other side. And really, it's just another out. So guys, you need to get on these peer-to-peer apps. And if you click the link in the description and use code BETTIN when you make your first deposit, you can get 2% back up to $300 over your next 30 days. So pretty much a free $300 if you bet enough on that. Guys, having as many outs as possible is an absolute must if you're serious about betting, and I highly recommend you guys go check out ProphetX. I've been playing on it for a little bit, and I have nothing but good stuff to say about it. Okay, guys, so the official play I'm rolling with Draymond Green over 17.5 points and assists, minus 122 at FanDuel, guys. And my reasoning behind it is, look, this game here, very recent. Draymond shot 4 for 12, 1 for 7 from deep, still had 13 points. He had 25 potential assists and 12 assists. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly going to happen again. Obviously, Memphis lost the game. I'm sure they're going to want to make some adjustments. One thing that I do know, though, guys, is that Zach Edey has been playing a lot, and I really want to take his under, but this new Grizzlies coach, for whatever reason, insists on playing him, even though he's completely unplayable, slow as hell. Guys, it's win or go home game. Or not. It's basically a win or go home, because if you lose this game, and you might as well just lose the next playing game because you're fucking losing to OKC. You cannot lose this game if you're Golden State. What they're gonna do is, especially whenever Edey's on that court, they are going to spam the hell out of a Draymond Steph pick and roll, force him to defend a pick and roll every single rep. Look, Steph Curry just had 55 points on them. If Zach Edey does not come up to the level, which he's really poor at because he cannot move, but he's gonna have to do it, it's just going to leave so much like roll man stuff for Draymond. Like, Draymond's going to be a roll man. He's going to, he's great as a passer there. Assists could easily spike. That's why he had 25 potential assists the other day. Or, maybe the rotations are slow. Gets a wide open layup. And if not, guys, when Edey does guard him and it's not a pick and roll, he's going to be left wide open. He's going to be left wide open for threes. Even if Edey gets benched, guys, then Jaren Jackson's going to guard him. He's going to do the exact same shit. Jaren Jackson just guards whoever, guards a non-shooter, overhelps like a madman, and Draymond's going to be wide open. So look, I just think that, like, you can see that those numbers for the last game, but I just think that this is a very, very good matchup for Draymond. I think that he's like, he could easily have 10 assists. He could easily have 3 or 4 threes. I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to capture the upside of both. So I'm going with PA.
Okay. I like it a lot. I'm in the same boat of, this isn't a win or go home, but it sort of is. But Edey can't play, I don't think. And same token, though, you saw some stretches down the end of the season. Click on Edey's game logs. Okay. So that game against the Timberwolves, Ant just put Edey in a pick and roll every single time, and Ant killed him. Okay. They didn't make any adjustments. He still played 30 minutes. And that was like a big game where they were trying to win.
Huge game.
Same as the Warriors game. Like, I think Steph dropped 52 in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So they just kept doing it. So I don't feel comfortable taking his under, because the coach has shown in games they need a win, he's still playing. Which makes me more confident betting an over to take advantage of it, which is a good one to do is definitely Draymond. That's a good one. I see they've upped Steph's overs. I actually don't even hate over 28.5 points. Like, he's probably going to get 24 shots here. And that's a low line for 24 shots. If Zach Edey's on the floor, the slight adjustment Memphis could make is they could guard Butler with Edey. I've seen Memphis do it a couple times throughout the season. I remember a guy who's very similar to Butler in the way he plays is Steph Castle. And Memphis were doing that during the season. They put Edey on Castle. So if you can live bet, I'd like watch the first couple of possessions. If Edey's guarding Butler, that's when you just go bet Butler live stuff, because Butler's gonna take advantage of it. But if they did do that, still Jaren Jackson's not. He's like a very aggressive defender. So that same time, Draymond will still get open looks, because Jaren Jackson, he roams. He roams around. Comes help side, all that sort of stuff. So I do think Draymond Green stuff's really good here, and obviously the minutes will be big.
Yep, for sure. I agree with you. And then, well, shit, if you see him guarding Butler, bet Butler's assist live too, because I mean he's going to be in the short roll, just feeding. I even thought that like Gary Payton to hit a 3 is pretty interesting. Not gonna lie, it's like, do I trust it? Do I want my first play of the playoffs to be Gary Payton to hit a 3? Probably not. That's why I didn't play it. But I mean, it's the same thing with him. He's going to be used as an aggressive help point for Jaren, for Edey, for like one of those guys is going to be on the court the whole time, and Gary Payton's going to be left pretty wide open. So don't even hate that. But yeah, Jimmy Butler, man. Jimmy Butler, I do wonder about his health. I actually considered his under pretty strongly, because one thing Memphis does do really well is protect the rim, obviously with like Jaren roaming. And Butler might not be healthy. Yeah, he seemed to be in pain at the end of last game. But don't really want to fade any of these stars really in this type of game. I know it's like kind of pussy shit. But just being honest, right? It's like Jimmy Butler, if he's really locked in, he
Yeah.
can drop 30 points, and there's no better game to be locked in. So yeah. Anyways, going off of this game, I guess we talked a lot about Warriors stuff. Zach Edey. I mean, dude, this Memphis coach really should be fired instantly on the spot if Zach Edey plays more than like 26 minutes, because it's
Yeah.
just gonna be terrible. So yeah, like you said, I agree. I'm scared to take his under. I mean, the coaches showed that like Edey can be the biggest liability in the world in big games, and he's still gonna play his like 30 minutes. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, is there anything else on the top of your head that's like interesting to you? Because we touched on Steph, Draymond. That's it. I touched on Jimmy
Um,
Butler.
yeah, so there's a couple things. If 80 plays, that helps Jar, right? They're running more pick and rolls. Big part of that is 80's in the pick and roll. He's a great screener. So there's definitely a correlation between like the games 80 plays big minutes and Jar scoring well. Uh Pick and rolls are way up as a result for both 80 and Jar. Something I'm really interested in, and I haven't decided if I'm gonna pull the trigger yet. I love Jaren Jackson stuff here. The problem is I can see a very easy avenue to foul trouble because what Memphis no sorry what Golden State will do, they'll guard him with Draymond, and similar to most things, Draymond isn't far off him in size, and they'll say, all right, score over Draymond one on one, right? And it's one of those ones where Jaren Jackson, he's like he's a confident player. Like if he sees one-on-one coverage, he's putting up shots. So I'm very confident his volume will far suffice the 20.5 point line. I think it should be 22.5. The problem I have is with it is foul trouble. Because if he's guarding Jimmy Butler or he's guarding if he's guarding Jimmy Butler, that is, and we get an aggressive Jimmy Butler, which I wouldn't surprise me. That just seems like I'd feel like an idiot betting it over on Jaren Jackson because the foul trouble chance is so big, which is a shame because if he, it's which maybe is baked into the line a little bit, I suppose. But yeah, 20.5 is too low for the volume he'll get if he plays just normal minutes, pretty much.
Yeah, I agree. I watched back Jaren's shots. He shot like shit and still had 22, 2 for 9 from deep, 7 for 20 from the field. I did notice that like Draymond, they leave Draymond on an island with him and just like trust Jaren. Like whatever, Jaren. Here's your 10-foot hook. If you make it, you make it. Which I think is pretty good defense, to be honest. Right? Play the math
Sure.
game. One person who I do kind of like their under is Desmond Bane. I think that Desmond Bane's actually a pretty easy guy to take away. In a playoff setting where you're super focused in on limiting stuff. The Warriors aren't going to play drop coverage, obviously. If you go to the year, pretty good against a pick and roll handler, 4th fewest points. Desmond Bane's like a perfect guy to not play drop and play aggressive against, because you can't let him flow into those pull up threes. You can't let him get a step and go downhill. That's like the one way where he can beat you. And if you play Ja pretty straight up, which I kind of expect they do, like I said, I just don't think Ja Morant's a pretty inefficient player with his shot diet and stuff. Same with Jaren Jackson. I think that they're going to let those two guys kind of do their thing. I think that Desmond Bane's going to be the guy that kind of suffers from it. So 19.5, look, he's probably going to play like 38 minutes. So definitely a little dicey there with that. But I think he's like the big 3 guy that I would like to take his under the most.
I agree.
Another thing that is kind of sneaky, I like Scottie Pippen under 7.5 rebounds and assists. Like I said, I just don't really see him touching the ball much here on offense. It's like why? I
Yeah.
don't, like I said, I think that, like I said, going off of I think that Ja and Jaren get good volume. And then for the rebound aspect, it's like he's going to be the guy on Steph Curry for sure. Like just like a small,
Yeah.
quick guard. He's going to be in terrible rebounding position the whole game. They just played pretty recently. He did have 12 RA chances, only had 4 though. So yeah, Scottie Pippen under in rebounds, I guess you could, it's pretty juiced. But if you can find like, I don't know, like Onyeka Okongwu, go back to that other game and pair him with like 10 points or something, I think that's like a decent look. Because yeah, man, I mean, you're on Steph Curry, you're not going to be getting any rebounds. You're just going to be in terrible position. And it's like a sneaky little angle too. It's like, and Scottie Pippen,
Yeah.
I don't know what's the point of playing him really, unless it's like in the Steph minutes, right?
To guard Steph
Yeah.
would be the one.
So yeah.
No,
Is that,
I agree. Yeah. I haven't done my full minute projection for this game. But It does make sense. The one I'm stumped on is like, will Edie play or not? Because that just changes so much. Because
Yeah.
if he's in the game, Warriors' whole offense will be centered around getting him in the pick and roll. And if he's out of the game, that completely changes things. Because then you've got Santi and Jaren. The rim protection's way less if he's out of the game. So I'd reckon much better for Butler. Because
Hmm.
you'd probably have you'd have Jaren on Draymond, and you'd have Santi on Butler. And if that's the case, that's awesome for Butler. Like his volume should be way high. So yeah, a lot of stuff depends on if Edie plays, and I'm going to try, make an educated guess later on as I look through more stuff.
I think that the best way to bet Edie here is just take his like rebounds and assists under and like parlay it together. I think that's like a really good bet. And then like risk to win a unit. Because look, Edie's either going to smash this line or play 14 minutes and drop 4 and 4. So I don't really see like much in between. I think that's like a really good way to potentially play Edie stuff is alt overs if you think that the coach sticks with him or maybe his minutes go good to start, which I highly doubt. I guess we never talked about this, but I think that the Warriors kind of blow out Memphis here, or not blow them out, but I think they win pretty comfortably. I just think that they're the much better team. But
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on
Memphis
that,
haven't
Edie?
been they haven't been good as of late. They had a good stretch after the coach, but I reckon they might have lost their last two or three. Um, yeah, it's just so hard but the thing is though, we've seen in games that they're trying to win, where during the game Edie is getting exposed, that he just keeps playing him. So
Yeah,
that sort of makes me think that he actually will play. Because why change it now? Because I know this is like a win or go home, but sort of the other games have been win or go home to make the playoff or play in. Like it's been the same. So I just don't get why they changed now. But definitely the smart thing to do is not play 80 big minutes, especially against Steph Curry,
yeah.
because he's pretty good at he's pretty good at what he does.
Yeah, and guys, playoff time is honestly a perfect time to bet alt stuff. Players will if you're a liability, you can't play. Most coaches will be like, okay, you're not playing. And same thing. Like, oh, this role player, we're gonna leave. Like Gary Payton, like I said, Gary Payton, we're gonna leave him wide open this entire game, and maybe Steve Kerr wants him out there to guard Ja and Bane, which actually makes sense, by the way. Gary Payton, him to hit 2 threes, that could easily happen, right? He sees the first one go down, he's probably getting
Yeah,
up 4 threes. Um,
yeah, for
it's
sure.
like little weird stuff like that. Draymond, obviously, he just hit 4 threes last game. When a 3-3 game for Draymond would not shock me whatsoever. I actually was insanely close to playing his over 1.5 threes at plus 135. I think that's a pretty good look as well. But yeah, guys, make playoff time. Buy into upside, buy into downside. It's a very smart way to go about it for some specific props for sure. Okay, Liam, I think we touched on a lot of this Memphis Golden State stuff. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we wrap it up?
Uh, I think that's it. Hang on. Um, yeah, no, that's it. I think we did most of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got through everything. Actually, wait, no, I will say the one thing we didn't talk about, this is sort of going back, we didn't really talk about the Magic props. Yeah, so the one I like is Paolo assist. And I'm probably going to play 5.5 at plus money, or maybe it drops or I might split 5.5 and 4.5. So to win half a unit on 4.5, and then flat stake half a unit on 5.5. I think Magic will watch last game back and be like, all right, we let this guy get way too deep in the paint. Okay. And as a result, he killed us. Franz killed us. We have to stop it. And I think it's a pretty easy switch. But the same token, with them shading in, I think that's going to give way more assist chances for Paolo. And even last game, I think he had 12 potential assists in that game
yep,
against Atlanta. Yeah, and this is a spot where his minutes are going to creep up. But I personally cannot see a world where the Hawks allow him to do what he did last game again, because he just got in the paint what felt like every possession, anytime he wanted. Like it was ridiculous. And same as France. Like how many shots did France have? I feel like he would have had 20 as well.
yeah,
Something like
he
that.
20
Yeah,
on the dot.
20. Yeah, 20 on the dot. So I can't see a world in like this sort of game where they just say, all right, we're not going to change anything. We're just going to let them get in the paint again, help late. And the helping late actually made it worse because what it did mean is if Power, went for like a hook shot or something, or France went for a hook shot, and then you saw that the help came late, you have Wendell Carter in the dunker spot just constantly over and over. So yeah, I'm probably gonna look to play Paolo assist. I'm gonna obviously wait on it. I think it's just a great spot, where he comes out in the first quarter, he's got 4 assists, and that sort of thing. But other than that, there's nothing really for the Magic I like. I'll do minutes later. Maybe there's a role player under that pops up or something like that. But that's it for now.
Yeah. I guess one last thing I wanted to say that I forgot to mention. Carter, like I said, Magic must-win game versus the Hawks. He did play 37 minutes in that game. So Goga is out of the rotation. He's been out of the rotation for a while now. Jonathan Isaac seems to be playing like 10 minutes a game. Look, if that happens, right, what Liam just said, Wendell Carter, he'll be spotted up a lot. He can get some spot up looks. He can be in the dunker spot. And it's just like if he's going to play, 35, 36 minutes, it's probably, a pretty decent look because, on the year he's averaging 18.3 PRA on only 26 minutes. So you can maybe do good matchup and, a 35, 34-minute projection for him, and that could probably get him there as well. So I guess that's the last thing I wanted to say.
Beautiful.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you guys tuning in. This is pretty long, but if you stay for the whole thing, man, you guys are a real one. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. Obviously, guys, betting the playoffs is night and day difference from betting the regular season. You really got to go in depth and take your time analyzing the game, thinking it through, putting yourself in the coach's point of view on what's like the best move, what are we going to live with, what are we not going to live with, and all that little stuff. So yeah, best of luck on the play-in game. Hopefully we can come out with some wins. Hopefully Draymond Green can cash us out. And yeah, Liam, thank you for joining me. Is there anything else you want to say before we dip?
No, that's all. Best of luck to everyone. Hope everyone enjoys the playoffs and makes some money while doing so.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in and see you tomorrow.